Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, June 20th. I'm having to look at the clock. Tuesday, June 20th, 3:41 p.m. And I hereby call to order the Budget Committee of the Memphis City Council. Ms. Owens, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Jones, Councilman Ford, Councilwoman Johnson, Councilwoman Robinson, Chair Carlo.
Chair is here. Chair reserves a quorum. Colleagues, this is budget wrap-up, what I hope is our last budget wrap-up meeting before committee on the 27th. And we have two large presentations left, and then we can get into some housekeeping, and we'll kind of go from there. We have the police department today to discuss a couple of the programs that they have in their budget for this year. And then, of course, we have Memphis Area Transit Authority to talk a little bit more about their operational needs, their outlook. And I know that those have been two major subjects. So without further delay, I will turn it over to Chief Davis and her team, unless any council members have any comments. All right, Chief, floor is yours.
Excuse me. Yes, good afternoon. Chief C.J. Davis, 170 North Main Street. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to really focus on one major portion of our budget ask for this year, for this fiscal year, and that is the overall Axon Enterprise project that the Memphis Police Department has requested. And what I'll do is I'll just tell you at a high level that some of the technology that we're requesting is existing technology, just expanding our body-worn camera program, our in-car camera program, our TASER program, and our Connect to Memphis technology as well. Our TASERs, we currently have TASERs in the Memphis Police Department. However, TASERs aren't issued to all of our officers. Our TASERs are issued only to crisis intervention team officers. And what we want to do is have every officer outfitted with a TASER or CEW, which is conducted electric weapon, which is a device that literally helps us mitigate in a less lethal fashion various types of situations. We've had more and more situations where our officers have dealt with the mentally ill, have dealt with dangerous individuals, and calling a crisis intervention team officer sometimes isn't feasible, and our officer needs to be able to mitigate the situation before it's escalated. Also, our in-car video program, right now the department utilizes a disparate systems, different systems that aren't talking to each other. The body-worn cameras are not talking to the in-car camera because they're different vendors and different products. The FUSIS aspect of our request is the technology actually integrating all of the cameras around the city, not just those that are private sector cameras on the exterior of buildings, but also is part of the Connect to Memphis, where we're actually utilizing individuals, their Ring cameras on the exterior of their homes as well. In one of the most recent incidents that we've had a resolution in and an arrest, we were able to utilize 88 different Ring cameras to identify the suspect, identify the vehicle, and to be able to make significant arrests. Our interview rooms, currently no interview room cameras are at our stations, and we believe that it's really important for us to have cameras in interview rooms when we're speaking to not just suspects, but victims as well. Also, our signal alarm, our firearm draw alert trigger. This new technology will allow for officers, anytime they brandish their weapon, for their body-worn camera to activate immediately. So we won't be relying as much on human behavior and be subjected to human error, because many of the various features are activated automatically. When blue lights turn on, body-worn cameras will be activated. When weapons are brandished, body-worn cameras will be activated. When a primary officer comes to a scene, then the other officers that come to that scene, their body-worn cameras will be activated. So much of what we're requesting really helps us with ensuring that we have body-worn cameras. We don't have as much human error of officers forgetting or in a situation where they can't turn on the body-worn camera, it's automatically activated. And also the body-worn camera, in-car camera, allows the real-time crime center administrators to watch in real time as well. The virtual reality training is included in this package. The mobile use of force deconfliction training tool. This is a training tool that we think is really important right now, especially as it relates to use of force and de-escalation. And auto tagging is important too. Auto tagging, and when I say auto, I don't mean a vehicle. I mean automatically tagging recordings that are related to other recordings. If I have a body-worn camera recording, if I have an in-car camera recording, I can pull all of these recordings that are tagged by one incident so that we can see everyone's vantage point, whether it's in-car camera or 2 or 3 other officers that respond to those scenes. So at a high level, this is some of what is included in this package. It really enhances our technology and our ability to fight crime in a more real-time and more accountable way as well. And I'm gonna allow the team to add on to what I've said. All right, don't shoot. I mean, pardon the pun. Sure. Yeah, I know.
Deputy Chief Joe Oakley, 170 North Main. So I want to talk about the Connect to Memphis. I handed out each of our council people a card that had a QR code that you could go on at your leisure, and hopefully you did, but it's a great tool for us. It's a video integration system. It's where businesses and homeowners can integrate their cameras into the real-time crime center. So with the approval of this contract, we have businesses that are just chomping at the bits for it. It's very exciting for us. We have FedEx, which is one of the largest is the largest employer in the city as well as the state. We have International Paper and AutoZone, and they're just excited about it. Then we have our businesses up and down the Poplar Corridor, as well as our Chamber of Commerce members. So it's very exciting. It's great. Like now we have over 2,600 registered cameras. That's where a homeowner or business registers the camera that they have, and it lets us know that they have it. So if a crime has occurred in or around their home or business, we contact them and ask them to check their video, and if they have it, we supply them a link. So this saves time for our detectives. They don't have to go out anymore to download the footage, because most detectives spend one day out of their work week collecting videos. So this is a very good tool. It'll help our detectives be more efficient. So then when we get the Fuchsias map, it's called Fuchsias 1, when we pull that up at the Real-Time Crime Center, we have all body cameras, in-car videos, LPR, our radio CAD system, and so many other things, 911. So we can see in real time what's going on. And if we need to pull up a body-worn camera, we just click on it. Currently, we can't do that because we have 2 systems. We have an in-car video system and a body-worn camera system. So you have to change platforms, which takes some time. But now the commanders of the precincts, Real-Time Crime Center, the command staff can pull this up and watch what's going on in the city at real time. So we're very excited about it. Some of the other major cities have this, and they have, some of them, for example, have over 10,000 cameras integrated into their crime system. But what I would like to see is this time next year that Memphis Police Department has 10,000 integrated cameras in our real-time crime center, which will help us to fight crime and prevent crime and to keep our citizens and our officers safe.
Yes, I've got Dr. Warren, and then after Councilwoman Johnson.
just looking at the amount of data you're going to be obtaining with this, is this something that they've already started programming AI to sort of look over for you guys and bring you things that are of interest that you should be looking at? Do you know if there are other AI programs that are integrated into this software?
I'm certain that there is. We've just sort of haven't ventured down that road just yet as we're evaluating AI for the department. And but this
I'm just thinking, you know, that it seems to me like there's so much data.
It
If you
is.
have all those cameras, in order to make some sort of sense out of it, you know, it would be really hard for a human being to be able to pull that off unless you were specifically going someplace. I like the way it's tagged. I mean, it makes good sense to have it that way. I just wondered, as you're looking at this down the road, make sure you get one that you can integrate AI into if it becomes available for it.
Absolutely. The other feature that we're looking, it's not included in this package, but the capability will be there, is that we are hoping to have our CAT system, all our calls for service. If a bank robbery occurred on Popular someplace, the closest 5 cameras would immediately pull up in the real-time crime center to be able to monitor real-time that location, vehicles leaving that location, vehicles, you know, coming to the location, and actually help to communicate to officers who are on the way to the scene. So eventually we hope to have our cameras also tied into our CAD system as well.
All right, Vice Chairman Smiley and then Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you. So, could you tell us? You want to ask yours first? Mine. Well, go ahead. I'm gonna defer to Council. Absolutely.
Thank you for the presentation. How much are we looking at? I hadn't heard a dollar amount for this proposal.
So we have, yes, yeah, for 5 years.
They presented it in the original CIP.
I don't remember, so how much?
It's 11 million for 5 years. 11 million per year for 5 years.
So we're looking at 55 million for cameras?
Not just cameras, it's for existing, we have an existing program that we pay for every year anyway.
How much is it?
And currently, what is our existing, the cameras? 4.6 for just body worn cameras
Okay,
alone.
4.6,
In
and you're
income.
gonna take it up to 11 million, or you need the 4.6 plus the 11 million?
That's included in the 11 million. The body worn cameras that the 4.6 currently pays for, that's all included. So included in that 11 million will be all of the programming that I just outlined. We currently have body worn cameras that's included in that, and in-car cameras that's included in that figure as well.
So this year, you're asking for approximately $7 million more to try to implement a new plan?
Well, yes, to enhance the current plan that
Right.
we have, to have some of the automatic sort of triggers on our video
Okay. But
recordings.
you're not asking for a total 11.6
They-
plus the existing
No,
4?
no,
Okay.
no, not the
Okay.
plus.
Yeah, this is just
It's
the
wrapped
$11
up.
million CIP request for fiscal year 24.
Yeah.
And it is inclusive of, as I understood it, tasers, interview rooms, connect to Memphis, in-car vehicle cameras, and body worn that connects to the technology to the grip.
Yes.
Okay. My question is, if you were giving the money, how soon could you actually purchase this additional equipment, and how soon could you actually implement it?
Our tech person here is gonna help answer that.
Okay.
I.J. Barton, 600 Jefferson, Memphis Police Department. So some of it can be immediate. We're piloting some of the software now, and it is in place. Things like viewing the officer's body camera live. The body cameras, for instance, are already in place. So I would need about 6 to 9 months to transition old cloud data as well as install in the new vehicles. And during that time period, I assume I can implement just about everything that's there during that time, that 6 to 9 month time period from July 1.
And that's, and if I hear Sergeant Barton right, that's a gradual implementation. Some of the vehicles will already be online, say this year and the next month, month to month to month. As we implement, we roll them out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna take about 9 months. So are you saying when we approve this budget, are we approving the 11 million, the $55 million, or are we gonna only have to approve 11 million?
Nothing can bind a future council. So we always lay out years in order to fund programs. Like we couldn't go buy $55 million this year. If we wanted to, we couldn't pay for anything else. So like with any other project, the administration is proposing to layer this in out years. That being said, I haven't seen the contract per se. I don't know if it's a total contract that's dependent on that. Most city contracts are written with language that says subject to legislative funding approval. So the only thing that this body is approving or is being asked to approve is $11 million for fiscal year 24. Knowing that much like a library is going to cost $13 to $15 million, getting in the middle of the river, you need to finish paying your bills. This is a little bit more unique because it's 5 different programs with one vendor. Yeah, one vendor. And so, again, I hadn't seen the contract, but the answer is what's before you today is the 11 million.
Okay, that was my question. I want to make sure. Let me ask you more about the body cameras. Currently, they're supposed to have the body cameras on anyway.
Yes.
So you're going to go and buy new guns? How are you going to do that? Because you said that body cameras will automatically come on. There's concerns about what are we currently using and how much longer would they be efficient in the
Right,
given
so
situation?
we're looking at like instantaneous safety nets, right? So a car goes a certain miles an hour, we will trigger the body camera. If they turn on the blue lights and things are happening quick, it will turn on the cameras. Weapon is drawn from the holster.
Okay, question, why is the camera not already on?
It is too burdensome to record. So you're looking at, we already
Let me get
have-
that part. Let me get that. So the camera, Sean Jones, 170 North Main. So the camera's in buffer mode. Okay, so it's recording already. Okay, but you have to activate it for it to start recording, and it'll go back 1 minute to pick up what's being recorded. So it's already in buffer mode recording.
So it's too burdensome for them to hit the button to tell them to start recording.
So if I got a
what you
perpetrator
saying.
trying to shoot at me with a gun, and I'm trying to get my gun out of my holster and shoot back and stop that perpetrator, my focus is aiming and stopping that perpetrator.
But once you get started, you should have already touched the button before all that started. wouldn't it?
Could I make a point? You're absolutely right. And there was somebody that made a comment. I think it was Ms. Sherman. Yes, it's in their policy. This eliminates the human error aspect. And if you think about just general technology across all sectors,
Come on, let me hear from them. Let me hear.
but they've answered this. You were late. They've answered this question 4 times.
I think I deserve an opportunity to hear it. If I'm late, I'm sure other people listening are late just as well.
Okay, Councilmember, I'll be glad to further discuss it. What we're hoping.
I was here when that meeting took place, but it's still not absolutely clear
I understand.
in regards to that camera. And we're again trying to spend $11.6 million. People need to understand where this money is going to. Nobody wants an increase in taxes. Nobody. And everybody wants to say, policemen not doing anything. You need to cut their budget. You got people all over this city talking to me, and I'm like, wow, what world are we living in? So it's far from that, just that one group. We got officers inside the unit having opinions about what's taking place. So don't just say it's that group. It's everybody concerned about how this money's being spent and how it's being, we need to make sure it's spent the best way. And if it's something we can do to ensure the public, let's take the time and do that. Let's not rush through it. I mean, I don't have a problem, meeting with you, but that's my concern in regards to the body camera. So if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just one aspect of some of the technology, but all too often we see incidents occur where an officer has not turned his body camera on for whatever reason. We believe that the body-worn camera footage is critical in every instance, and sometimes you know, our officers are turning their body worn cameras on when they're supposed to, and sometimes they're not, and sometimes the incident arises quickly and they're not being turned on. Some of this technology does automatic activations, automatically activates, whether or not the officer turns it on or not. The body worn camera is turned on when the blue lights come on. The body worn camera is activated when a weapon. Right now, we don't have that technology either. When we have officer involved shootings, it's important, even though an officer might be concerned about mitigating a threat, it's important that when that weapon is out, that we see some recordings immediately. This technology has, I think Chief Crow is testing right now. His holster has the technology where when that weapon is released, his body-worn camera is turned on immediately as well. Or when other officers come on a scene.
Let me ask you this. How easy is it to turn it off?
When it automatically activates.
Yeah, after,
Yes. After, you can automatically, you can turn it off. You can actually turn it off as well.
look like they shouldn't be allowed to turn it off. Some get permission to turn it off or
Yeah,
something.
go ahead.
I agree with you. In a perfect world, we would run the body camera all day.
No, I mean after it's activated.
Sure. Well, I mean, and that goes back to the same problem that I'm going to touch on here. So if you kept the body camera on all day, battery technology has not yet reached where we can do an 8-hour day, right? So that's number one.
I'm not talking about that. Okay, a scene comes about.
You're talking about when I'm out on a scene and the
Blue lights
camera's
come on.
activated and the officer turns it off.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right.
Can he turn
Right.
it off?
He
after?
intentionally turns it
Yes.
off.
Right.
He's not supposed to intentionally turn
But
it off.
can he?
He can intentionally turn it off, and that's why we have internal affairs investigations on officers who turn off their body cameras without, because there's a policy. Once you're on a scene, you're supposed to keep that camera on. And we question
so
our
I'm just
officers.
questioning, you're buying a piece of equipment that's supposed to help, but
When it
at the same
reactivated
time,
again,
it's
with the blue light.
easy to be turned off and deal with the same issues you have. And look like that equipment needs to say, as long as that blue light is on, you cannot turn it off. That, it
And I
needs to
would
be
think that it would trip it again.
Yeah.
corrected to that point.
Right, yeah. So if an officer did turn it off, the blue lights and everything else on the scene would reactivate the body camera.
Okay, I'm saying it would constantly react.
Right.
Activated.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the bigger picture is that recording a lot of data is very expensive and
I
it's
got
very
that.
burdensome.
I
But
understand
the ability
that
to turn
part.
it off gives us that leniency to work within the policy.
Yeah, but I just don't want them to be able to turn it off. Blue light still going, or whatever the speed or whatever, So I was just saying, how easy is it for them to
It
turn
would
it off?
reactivate.
Okay,
would
long as it
actually
will reactivate with this system.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think that's it. And after we do it this year for 11.6, next year, why is it still going to be 11.6? Because you won't need the 4.6 anymore, will you?
You talking about? Okay, I see what you're saying.
Is it all blending in? Is anything going to catch up eventually?
I guess what she's saying, after the initial purchase, do we still need, I guess, funding allocated
For that
to
amount.
to make up for the initial purchase of the equipment?
And
So what we're looking at is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're looking at rolling what we have already in, right? That's your 4.6. And then your incremental increase with the things like FUSIS and those things. And those, once implemented in the first year, that's the cost of the stasis over the 5-year contract.
And I believe this contract we have the ability to scale it, based on our need. Once we get to a point, say we end up with 8,000 cameras in the system, we may not need to continue this same arrangement. So scaling it up, the other thing that I would put on your minds too, is that we don't plan to ask the administration to support the camera network alone over the period of time that we're utilizing technology. There are all kinds of grants out there that we plan to pursue, and we believe that we're suited to receive grant funding as well. So the request in the years to come could be a lot less.
Thank you for your assistance and
Thank you.
information.
So I have a question. So how much money do we, and this is not particularly related to what we're talking about now, how much money do we have in the budget for officer uniforms?
Wasn't prepared for
So
that.
historically, it's been 1.2 million.
1.2 million. How do we go by allowing officers to secure their uniforms?
Well, historically, they were given cash money.
Okay, but I heard the program is about to change. Could you talk a
Exactly.
little bit about that?
Absolutely. So 1.2 million. And when we did our historical checks on that, we only had maybe 250,000 of the 1.2 million spent on uniforms.
Okay.
Therefore, we want to make sure that all officers have uniforms, the correct uniforms, not wearing Stacey Adams shoes.
My dad wears Stacey
Sneakers.
Adams. Let's not talk about Stacey Adams.
Well, that's not a
It's
part of
all
our
good.
uniform, though.
I'm sorry.
But that's not a part of our uniform. Uniforms that don't match, things of that nature. People who appear to have not bought a uniform since I guess they came on to the police department, having this new system that we put an RFP out for, and that we're going to, which is GALS. This system allows us to do that.
Okay, so we're going from, instead of giving officers cash money, we're going to give them vouchers. Is that fair to say?
Well, again, because we were not spending
I get you.
the 1.2 million as we were supposed to.
Yes, sir.
We're going to make sure we spend it.
I follow you. So
Appropriately.
we're giving vouchers to the officers.
Well,
We're not giving vouchers. I
it won't be a
mean,
voucher. It'll be an allocation amount that they have to
Right.
they have to go and get credit
so it's not cash.
for.
It's not cash. They
So
can go
what is it?
online. They can either go online or go to the uniform shop and place their order, and we will get the invoice.
Okay, so I'm gonna just get straight to the point because I'm dancing. I don't feel like dancing today. So my concern is this: I've received a couple calls, particularly around the fact that we're using our funding to, I guess, require officers to buy uniforms for a company outside of Shelby County. But I've been made aware that there's companies within Shelby County that can provide those uniforms as well. So my question, hold up, just let me finish.
go
I'm
ahead.
almost done.
Yeah, go
My
ahead.
question specifically is the stipend allocation, whatever funding source, the mechanism we're using. Is there a way that we can allow officers to purchase from whatever entity this is, but also allow them to purchase or require them to purchase from an entity within Shelby County? Because I mean, we spend a lot of money, but I don't necessarily care for our funding or money going outside of Shelby County when we don't necessarily have to.
So we have a brick and mortar
Okay.
inside of Shelby County.
I'm familiar, but the company's not. The
Okay.
company's not based in Shelby County. The
Okay.
company is a national company that
All right.
decided to set up shop inside of Shelby County. But we have a locally owned small businesses that are able to provide uniforms to officers.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think that's my concern.
Okay, so as much as I can answer, I answer. Procurement will have to answer the rest. But we went through an RFP process, a procurement process, where specifications were put out. Individuals who were interested, they bidded on it, and this is the company that won the bid.
Did we have any local companies that bid?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any way I can get some information on this process? Okay. Okay. So how soon? What'd you say, Mike? Scorecard. What Councilman Carlisle said. All right. How soon could I get that?
I think procurement handles that piece, so I'll defer.
We'll get to you as soon as we can get it out from them.
Okay. That's all of my questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman Jones.
Thank you. Colleagues, I want to sort of get us back to how we got here and what the basis of this discussion was. Do we have a breakdown of each of these components as it relates to this? Councilwoman Johnson, just want to run something by you real quick. So keep in mind that this is a $55 million ask, but it's like we're on a payment plan, if you would. So $11 million of it is now. However, and let's look at this realistically. We could very well have we will have a new mayor. We could very well have a new police director. So the question is, do we want to make the down payment of a $55 million investment at this point? So I don't know. So what I was hopeful of was that we have a breakdown of this 55. So just some back of the math things. Tasers. Right now, it's my understanding we have about 250 tasers. The plan is to roll it out to the entire officer patrol. that takes us about to 1,750. Now, I just went, I don't know the per unit price of this, but I went online, just did taser.com, whatever that company is. $1,000 per unit. So if we're talking about 1,750 more, we're talking about $1.75 million just for the taser part of it. So we don't have that breakdown. So what I'm saying is that because where I want us to get to, and I have a resolution coming before us, colleagues, as we talked about, and I have a couple questions here, but how does this help our solve rate? Does a taser help our solve rate? Going back to a crime lab, which is, and I hate that Councilman Morgan isn't here, my thing is how I foresaw this, and the purpose of this discussion is to say, okay, well, we don't need these, in just my opinion, we don't need tasers right now. But if we can take that $1.75 million and put that towards a crime lab, what does that do? So it's about taking a look at this total CIP proposal that came about or came from the administration, seeing what the individual components are, and saying, okay, well, let's see, and let's help set these priorities, what these priorities are. So that's how I saw us coming back and having this discussion, and essentially administration telling us, okay, well, we can wait to next year or 2025, 2026, whatever the case may be, versus looking at the individual, the breakdown of it, because we still are talking about budget. We still are talking about limited resources and how best to deploy that, still keeping in mind 6 months from now, we're gonna have a new mayor. And so do we make a 55, now, granted, do we need, and then, all of this is just my opinion here. These are the subject matter experts here. I think that everybody would agree we should have cameras in interview rooms. Yes, that's something that we can do or need to do today. But as it relates to, and we haven't dedicated anything besides that 600,000 to a crime lab. So how I saw this going is, maybe, do y'all have for us a breakdown of what those numbers are and how we can go and help set what those priorities and determine what can we spend today, where we should spend it today, versus what can be put off for a year and see what the priorities are of the next mayor of the city. So that's what I hope to do from the police as we're talking about this, help determine whether or not we want to commit. Do we put a $11 million down payment on something that's $55 million at this point where 6 months from now, 7 months from now, we're going to have a new chief executive officer of the city of Memphis? So do we have that breakdown of the individual components of each one of these? Because that's going to help us to get there. Well, that's my first question. Now, going back to the taser and seeing if that's a priority, I know that when an officer has to draw his weapon or discharge his weapon, there's a report of that. Do we have that same report? Do we require that same report and keep that same data for tasers? So if we're looking at that, hey, 250 tasers, we have how many incidents? So or how many instances have an officer deployed their taser? So when we look at that, have we making that data-driven decision to basically say, we've utilized the tasers this amount of time, and therefore we need to expand it to the entire force. Mm-hmm. We just didn't have an opportunity to have that type of discussion during the original presentation. But still, it's a matter, colleagues, I want us to sort of set what those priorities are. Look, as things have been broken down, yes, do we need those interview room cameras? Yes. From the Connect to Memphis, yes, that could be the priority. It's almost like for MPD to provide us that wish list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or the 6 different components here. Which ones can wait, which ones can't? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So just as a follow-up to Chairman Jones, if you guys could attempt to try and break those down for the out years for the council, that'd be helpful, and for the public. I've got 2 members of the queue. I just want to say one quick thing. We spent 4 months or 3 months this year after Tyrese Nichols' death and almost 8 months after George Floyd's death talking about police accountability and transparency and you have a proposal in front of you that delivers exactly that and does mitigate the human error, whether intentional or unintentional, to do that, yes, it's a lot of money. But I don't know how we spend all this time over the years talking about things like affordable housing, et cetera, and then like the moment comes and now we're like, is this the best use? Now, Chairman Jones brings up some very valid points about how certain contracts are picked based on administrations, and I'm sure there's 3 different types of body camera. I don't know how many are out there. Like vendor choice, gun choice is an officer's choice, is the chief of police and downstream. So those are very fair points. But for me, this is all about the things that we have verbally beaten up this police department to bring us for. I mean, the fact that we don't have cameras in interview rooms in 2023 is crazy. So again, this is, for me, I view this as mitigating human error in police accountability and transparency, and I actually appreciate the fact that we're doing it. I have one short question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Ford, which is, are we not also doing this in tandem with other agencies in the area?
You mean, is this program similar to other agencies?
Or are we purchasing this in the same time as other agencies like the radios?
Absolutely.
So that's what I thought too, is this helps us with other agencies like the Shelby County Sheriff's Department. So, all right, I've got Councilman Ford and then Dr. Warren.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief for a minute because I got a lot to say today. Okay? First of all, yes, it's going to be another administration. It's going to be a new council. You won't be here. 2 others won't be here. Okay? I don't want nobody that's not going to be here. I can run again. I might not be here either. I could be beat. I don't want a brand new council to come in and everybody messed it up. Okay? Just like they messed up the school board. I got issues now. You know, for the last few nights, I ain't been able to sleep. I've been thinking about a lot of these things that everybody want to bring up, not just the police. You're doing a good job. Insulting is not good. You just insulted my chief. Nobody's job is permanent. But you know, you're doing a great job. Y'all are doing a great job, just like what you said. I'm like a body camera. I hope it be on, but hell, if he's pointing this doggone big-ass gun at me, it's gonna be between me and him. It's gonna be between me and him when they pointed at one of us. And I ain't the police. I see it a lot in my funeral home. Gun bigger than I am. This is not a play game. You know, I got a lot of council members that's about self. Self need to get away from here right now. I'm gonna be on everybody's behind. The ones that I know, because I know a lot of things. Like I said, I ain't slept in the last few days because of some of my council members. And I'm here to tell the world, especially the people of the city of Memphis, okay? Back door, 2 or 3 council members meeting, trying to change some things. That ain't gonna work with me. They got pissed off because I ended up saying something. You walked out and wanted me to shut up, talking to somebody he ain't been right since. Okay? I don't care. I've been here, done that. Chucks, I was on the council 20 years ago, 20-some years ago. We didn't go through this mess. These last 4 years been the worst 4 years I've ever had on the council because we really hadn't done much of nothing. Let's wake up. Okay? Y'all need to listen. Don't play no games. My man out there, you got 2 or 3 hats. I remember 20 years ago, somebody else had 2 or 3 hats to make this city move. And when it comes down to the budget, and then some of the council, it's about self. It's not about the council, it's not about this city. But when I was on the council 20 years ago, hey, when we were on budget, it was about the city of Memphis. I'm gonna shut up because, hey, I'm gonna be on a lot of different things, especially when it comes to the council too. I don't want nobody that's not gonna be here to make a decision today. None of this council should even. And the ones that not gonna be here, let's do right today. Don't play no games. Don't do all these different things and think this gonna come in for next year. And you know what? That's what's happening over on the other side. They got brand new people in hell. They going through hell over there because the last ones made a big ass mess before they left here. School board got all the money. Before people left there, come over here, hell, they messed up the school board. Okay? People might not want to say, but you know what? And then I got to say this about school board, and I'm going to be quiet because I got a lot to say today. That's why I said this ain't going to be over with today. If we had to meet every day. And you know what? Just got to say this. During budget season, when I was on the council before, hell, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning was no problem. Everybody want to go home by 5, 6. I got an issue. But you didn't get here at 3, 4 o'clock. You never was in a meeting. But when you go down there, you want to be, I'm ready to go home. That's why I said we hadn't done anything during budget. Let's be for real, y'all. 12, 1 o'clock. That's okay. Order some pizza. You know, they wanted to order pizza at 3:30 down there, but dial, I want to be gone at 5 after I get through eating this doggone pizza. I'm serious today, y'all. I'm tired of backbiters. All the rest. This city does not deserve that. And if y'all, hey, y'all need to wake up. You know, this is not fun and games. It's so not about us. It's about the people of Memphis. Talking about going up on taxes. That ain't gonna fly. $10. And I can just, hey, Memphis Flyer did at least said one good thing about me being a fellow. He said $10 is a lot of money for his people. In the hell it is. But I'm gonna be quiet right now, but I want to set some fire under y'all today, okay? Because I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna call everybody out that's about themselves. So be careful what you say today. And I want everybody to respect everybody on this administration. They've been good people. You're not gonna get what you want all the time. But hey, you're bringing good ideas. Hey, because we got a tight budget, hey, we're gonna deal with it. Yeah, we're gonna have a new mayor, and hell, we'll be back at square one. That's just like I said, only thing that I've asked for in 4 years, and it still ain't going on, and that's down at Southwest 20. That's something that people can have. Not a council member, nobody else. But I want this council, don't insult any of these people out here. Insult yourself first. Okay? I'm gonna be through because I got a lot to say today. And it, you know, it's just 4:20, but 12 o'clock would be nice. I'm serious today. You know, because hey,
I'm just not done yet.
You know, but I'm very serious because hey, everybody just want to go. I got something else to do. Why the hell are you on my council then? Okay? Why? What are you here for? For self? And the majority might be. But I'm through for right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Dr. Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, one of the things that we tried to do when we were on the school board is we actually tried to rule by policy and not micromanage the administration as they were putting things through. And I think the policies that we as a council have been trying to put through are we want accountability, but we also want a safe city. And we want our officers to feel like we've got their backs. You know, we know that they're outgunned out there on the streets. And so now we have administration that are professionals that understand what they need to do policing, because I don't understand exactly what it is. Bring us a thing that does two things. Not only does it allow them to be more effective at policing because people are tired of crime. They want us to catch criminals. They want us to put people in jail, and they want to help. They want to put their cameras in systems that can work. We heard them say that tonight. And our police officers are going to be more accountable because the system will take the human error out. I'm with Councilman Ford. If someone's pulling a gun on me, I am not cutting my camera on before I reach for my gun and try to protect myself and save my life and take that person out before they hurt someone else. So this system is good. It's a good thing to have, and it's an investment. It makes sense in a bunch of different ways. So I know that it's always easy to try to say we're going to let me divide this thing up and let me try to micromanage this from the council because I know how to run a police department better than you do, but I don't. Okay, so in my mind, this is brought to us, and you got to say what of the policy decisions have we been asking for? Does this answer? It answers accountability. It answers the ability to be more effective at policing. It provides us with the more input from the community by allowing people to put their cameras on there and allow us to see more and maybe solve more crimes and make our city safer. So, and I think it's going to protect not only our citizens, but also our policemen. So it protects them from false accusations that, well, you cut that camera off. Well, I forgot to cut it on. I was so busy, trying to protect someone, I forgot to cut it on. And now it's going to automatically come on. So it's not only is it accountability, it's protection for our police officers too. So I, for one, think we should vote for this. And I think it makes good sense for all those reasons I just mentioned. And since I'm not the one going to be running the police department and know how to run the police department, I am going to listen to the people that I respect, and I want the rest of my council members to consider doing the same. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Warren. I've got Councilwoman Johnson, and I think Chairman Jones then wants to bring something for discussion.
I just want to come in on him.
Yes, sir.
Accountability. Going back to the school board again.
Councilman Ford, would you turn your microphone on, please, sir?
Going back to the school board, let me get you straight on that one now. Going back, accountability. The accountability that the school board did was, it took the city of Memphis out of the box for a minute. It let all these other municipalities say, hey, thank you very much. Y'all did something that we couldn't do, but now you did it, and hell, they ran with it. But what did they end up doing again? And put us back in the box. But you're talking about accountability. What is the system name now? MCSC. They had to put that M back in. When I was on the council before, we tried to get rid of that M on that. And let them know, hey, it's really the county. And when it comes down to monies and everything else, that's what messed up because we gave up the charter. But we let all these other municipalities come in. The same thing what we're doing now because, hey, we're too, right, bringing everything else. And that's why we're losing everything, okay? And when that formula is done, hell, Germantown just smiling. Collierville just smiling. All of them are smiling. And you know what? City of Memphis, we got 3, almost 4 times more people, and we don't get no more. But they had to put Memphis back in there. Smell your coffee. Thank you.
Wait, Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. I want to make sure everybody understands. I wanted clarity in my comments, how effective the system would actually work. And then the other question was, is this council obligated to set up a 5-year $11 million operation? Can this be done in phases, rather than us as a council doing it with so many changes that's going to take place?
So I'll give you the charter answer, and then I'll have the CFO answer the contract question, which is nothing can bind future councils per the charter. And if someone will go on the record and just confirm for me that it is our typical practice to have all contracts stipulate subject to legislative approval and funding. Doesn't mean we can't get sued, but it's usually in there.
Good afternoon, Council Member Shirley Ford, Chief Financial Officer, 125 North Main. So when we brought this before you, we heard you. We heard what you said about accountability. We've been doing this since Liza. We've been doing this through our other fortunate, unfortunate events. We've been listening to what you said. So what we charge the police with is, what do you need? What is it that you need? So I sat down with Chief Davis, with Deputy Chief Oakley, with Mr. Barton here, Officer Barton, and we talked about what does this really look like. So we currently have two programs. We have the in-car video, and then you have the body-worn cameras. And as they said, not everybody has them. Not everybody has a taser. So what we sit down and, okay, what would it take for us to bring this to your table? So Lieutenant Barton sat down and talked with Axon. We worked through the program, and yes, we do have the particular elements of the program. We know how much each element is costing. And the discussion that we had with them is, how can we make the best use of the money? How can we get the best deal possible? So Axon agreed to spread this out over a period of 5 years for us so that we could manage this within our budget. Specifically to your question, Chairman, is no, I can't obligate you. I can't obligate the city. Now, we will sign a contract. The contract will say subject to funding availability. Should you decide next year not to go forward with the additional $11 million, then our contract will become null and void. Now, where does that leave our police division? Not in a very good place. So part of this, again, is just like a commitment to build a community center, just like a commitment to build a library, just like a commitment to build a police precinct or a fire station, is here's the plan, here's what we hope to do with this plan, and based on available fundings, and that's why we give you a 5-year plan on our CIP projects. What does this look like? Some of our projects are 1-year plans. Some of our projects you are in year 3 or year 4 of something that started 5 years ago, that every year we come before you and ask you to approve this year's funding for this project. So yes, they will sign a contract, but the contract will have the stipulation that is available on funding. But our hope is to build a process and a facility around this technology that would allow our police to move forward in a very productive way. And we think that we have brought you the best possible plan. I sent Lieutenant Barton back 3 times going, that's too much, it's too much. You've got to do better. And part of this deal is based on us signing a contract with them. But I think every vendor that works with the city of Memphis knows that every contract is dependent upon available funding. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Ford. Chairman Jones, did you want to introduce something for discussion?
Yes, but I still have a follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Is this an all or none proposal? So can the individual components be broken out?
Yes, we can. We can break up the components in the package. What we really tried to do, council member, is to look at what are the immediate needs for Memphis Police Department. And really some of this is catching the Memphis Police Department up with technology, with 21st century technology, and looking at not just accountability, but crime reduction. We have seen success in crime reduction in critical national cases because of sparse technology out there. And we have really looked at what could we do if we got our citizens more engaged as well. And part of that camera network, we didn't want to cut that out because we know we've solved crimes because of cameras that are at people's businesses that helped us solve crime. So I know it's a big ask, and we're not coming to you like this is a candy shop. We're really, thinking in terms of what can we do when you don't have enough men and women to address a problem? How do we get the community more engaged, and how do we have eyes in places that help us to solve, problems? So we've talked about what it would look like for our officers not to have CEW devices. Well, most agencies our size, it's almost unheard of for just a few people to have, because when you need that device, it needs to be there. But that's something that we haven't had in the department and that's something that if this body says that it's not as important right now, they will continue not to have it. But we've seen more and more mental health crisis in situations where a less lethal kind of tool is very impactful. And we don't have the data because officers have had to mitigate without the devices. And we're constantly thinking, if they had that device, we could have had a different outcome.
Right. So that may drive our excessive force complaints that we get, because typically they have to go hands-on most of the time because they do not have that intermediary, the taser. Injuries to the suspect, injuries to the officer, workers' comp issues, hospital bills on both sides as a result of not having that. So there's a cost that's paid, one way or the other. There's a cost.
Okay. So can we have that breakdown of the individual components?
We can get that to you.
Okay. Well, that part was going to be important because what I plan on introducing, and if you could distribute it, was I was hopeful, and because we are in the budgetary part of this, I was hoping to have that individual component of it to propose that a certain amount, like I said, I don't know, without having that in front of me, I don't know, and colleagues, what you'll see a blank number here. I don't know what that number was, but that was to provide additional funding for the creation of a City of Memphis Crime Lab to serve Memphis and Shelby County, to be named the Memphis Survivors and Victims Crime Lab. So I'm not sitting here proposing that we scrap everything that you all are doing, but taking and like I said, if that amount for tasers was my back of the napkin, $1,000 a pop, $1,700, allocating 1.7 million, 1,750,000 for that, the seed money for that. So without having that breakdown, I don't know what that is, but that is the nature of what you have before you, colleagues, is like there's a blank here. We haven't seen that individual breakdown of what those individual components are. As I mentioned in my previous comments, is it necessary, required? Should we have cameras in all of our interview rooms? Absolutely. I'm not wavering on that. And, still hearing the part about the tasers, but it's just looking at this particular investment now, and I think it'll be foolhardy to think that this council still would say, okay, well, we're committing $11 million and we're not going to fulfill that obligation going forward. But that's still, whether I'm here or not, that's still something that somebody who succeeds me would have to do. But the nature of this here, what you have before you is, if we can say, hey, the taser, just as part of it, can't wait a year for this to have that $1.75 million, because it still goes back to our solve rate. What's our homicide solve rate? What's our other, when we talk about these violent crimes, would a taser help bring that solve rate down, or would a crime lab help bring that solve rate down? And that's the nature of my bringing this resolution here, colleagues. And I so move.
Thank you, Chairman. If you don't mind, since we don't have a number, but here's what if you're comfortable with, it's on the record. We'll have it placed on the agenda for the 27th. That way, members, and you can have time to get the information you need to fill in that blank.
But I thought do you all have that today? Because that was part of their bringing that information back today, was to give a breakdown of what those individual numbers are, because otherwise I don't have anything. I'm shooting in the dark of what to put in here.
Fair enough.
So the answer is yes, Councilman. I have a kind of a rough draft.
Okay, that's fine.
A rough average of what these products cost. So you're looking at the body-worn camera and the taser is a bundle. And it's also bundled with what's called Axon Citizen, all these other softwares that we're talking about. So that one's running about 5.2 million annually for the body camera and taser combo plus software. And then for the in-car portion, you're looking somewhere around 3.3 to 3.5.
It's all assumed software, right?
Right, it's
Yeah,
licensed.
that's right. I just want to get it on the record.
Yeah, enterprise solution is what it creates.
Perfect. All right.
That's the issue. We've got to pay for body worn cameras anyway. So, this is just a bundle cost for the taser and the body worn cameras. I think it would help for us to be a little bit more detailed also about what we've got to pay regardless of whether or not we go with this package. There's going to be costs associated with the next generation upgrade of our body worn cameras alone. So I don't know if that will help you or not, council member, as far as the decision that you know how much we would have to pay. What is our annual cost for body worn cameras alone without tasers?
Correct.
We don't have that in front of us.
We're 2.1.
2.1?
For the old generation.
Yes, of the older generation. So bundling tasers in for the entire department plus the body worn camera, it would take it to 5.2.
Okay, so that has us at about 8.7 on the high end.
Mm-hmm.
Right, then we're looking about, for interview rooms, about 275,000 annually.
Hardware and software?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then we have a one-time payment of 582,000 for the Fusus product, year one. And those are just rough numbers based on volume.
Okay. Well, that part is helpful, and part of my bringing this resolution was to see what that breakdown was. I wasn't going to be, just to go out there and grab a number, not knowing what the individual components are. This is the first time that we've heard that it's a bundle type of situation.
Yeah.
That wasn't brought before us. My bringing this resolution was based upon the presumption that, okay, well, this is standalone, we could pause this or postpone this year into next year. So are there, within this or anything else, any means for us within you all's budget for us to provide a little bit more funding to get us ahead on setting up a crime lab?
Really have to discuss that with the administration too, as far as the whole venture of a crime lab. We've been talking and trying to come up with some estimate of what a crime lab will cost the city. We've even looked and evaluated the different types of crime lab. Do you want a full-fledged crime lab, or do you want to focus on sexual assault kits, which I think has been the focus and the concern for the backlogs. Of course, processing sexual assault kits would be considerably less than a full-fledged crime lab. We've compared with Nashville. Nashville's volume isn't near as high as what our volume is as well. And just the estimates of what it would cost, I think their crime lab costs them about $8 million a year just, for staffing, somewhere roughly, trying to remember the exact amount, I think.
Build it, but to build?
Just to build.
32, it was 32 back in 2008, I think.
Right, back in 2008. That could be potentially cut in half if you're looking at a very focused crime lab in a particular type of specialization. I would also say that a venture like that should be a collaborative venture with other jurisdictions in this area, because they would want access to be able to utilize our crime lab as well, as opposed to sending, which could potentially be a way to offset some of the costs too. I think statewide has been a concern.
Yeah, the operating dollars are my biggest concern. The building it is not easy, but is easier. I mean, that's where I've always been concerned, and all the conversations I've had at the state is, and we talked about this as we've gone through this process, is even the state is having trouble. They'll train a tech, and just like with the police department or engineers, within 3 years, they've left for a private company, and then we have to turn around and contract with that private company to process, which is just annoying to say the least. I don't have anything more eloquent to say.
Well, and these would be my final comments. The fact that Nashville has one and they don't have the volume that we have, but West Tennessee, that's operated by the state, most of their cases come from Memphis. We can't set the priority for Jackson, well, for West Tennessee. We can set that priority for Memphis. And so, and I hesitate to always get on this comparison between Memphis and Nashville, but still looking at the survivors and the victims of these type of things. And yes, I am going to be selfish about this from the standpoint, I want to leave this city better than what I found it. Do I want my name on a taser? No. But if part of my legacy is saying that Jones champion for this crime lab on a permanent basis to prevent what has happened here, hell yeah, that's what I want my name on. So yeah, I'm gonna be selfish about that. But it's not about me, it's about those who are affected by that. And that's why I'm adamant about this. It ain't got nothing to do with me individually, but that's why. So that's why I'm asking, is there any way for us to, instead of the $600,000 that we put on, that Councilman Morgan and I put on the table, anything additional to get us a little bit more runway for doing something like this? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I said one thing.
Yes, sir.
Like I said,
Microphone, Councilman.
I'm usually quiet, but I want to be heard. I don't want nobody to interrupt. I prefer my name to not be on anything because your name might be on a headstone. Don't do what we need. I prefer you to go tase somebody that's at my building that's trying to get in there, okay? Y'all don't have the problems that I have at my place. Because I have a lot of the people that have done the crime. When I'm getting ready to bury these people, they're at my place of business. All of them. So, hey, it ain't about no crime lab. I wouldn't want your name on the crime lab, okay? But don't put my name on a headstone and say, shut. You know, I didn't do this, that, and the other. Hell, I'm dead now. Chuck, you a statistic. Hey, you forgot about. Nobody care about you no more. When it comes to that, you know, crime lab, I don't think is very important. Not only that, if I'm gonna move some money, I want some money to be put somewhere that's gonna help somebody right now, okay? Not no doggone crime lab. And please do not. That's the problem I keep trying to tell y'all. You having a problem. I don't give a shit about Nashville. I'm in, excuse the expression, but I'm in Memphis. You know, don't tell me about some other place that you want, hey, this, that, and the other. I'm in Memphis. I don't care about Nashville, and if you went to Nashville, there's a big difference what's going on in Nashville and in Memphis. Hell, we ain't even growing. And I wonder why. And I always said, 5 people. The reason why we having trouble. Get over. Get over. Crime lab instead of something else. People read. You know, y'all can vote for this stuff. I'm not gonna vote for none of this mess. And like you said, you won't be here. I might not be here. I can run. I might not be here. I might get beat. Don't make no difference. Might not be here. But you know, you can't run. A few others can't run. Morgan can't run. Please don't make bad decisions for new people coming in, where we can look as stupid as the folks across the street with all this new stuff going on. Okay?
Thank you,
And if
Councilman.
y'all want to listen to
Sorry.
people, if y'all want to listen to some people, listen. But you know what? I don't even talk to the media, but I'm getting ready to start talking to the media about a lot of folks. Okay? I'm thorough again, but whenever I need to talk because, hey, I'm kind of tired. I told you, you went to sleep last night. Some of these others went to sleep. I ain't slept in a few days thinking about a lot of this mess. Okay? I'm very serious.
You got to call me next time we can talk to each other.
Huh?
So
Well,
that-
hey, I'm up all night. That's anyway, just about on the hour. In the hour, you give me a time. Hey, I'm up. I can tell you when 2 o'clock comes, 3 o'clock comes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Dr. Warren, take us home.
I just wanted to ask, the crime labs in the state, and the one in Jackson, the one in Nashville, were they funded by the state of Tennessee? Are they funded by the municipality?
They're yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Shano. It's dual. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I have all these meetings and ask all these questions.
So, Chief?
Yes, sir. Shandell Ryan, Chief Operating Officer. Yes, sir. Sir, they are. And I did want to point out that yes, there are lots of funding sources, but primarily, definitely the state. And the governor did raise the funding level so that they can get an additional, I think he raised it $9 million so they can get additional 25 people in this year's budget as well.
Going to where the Jackson?
Going to TBI, the overall system.
The overall TBI, so the whole system.
To the whole system,
So,
yes.
and I guess the point I'm trying to make is Nashville is not paying for their crime lab. Jackson's not paying for their crime lab. There's state facilities that have been moved or placed in those cities. Is that correct?
Nashville has a crime lab. I believe Nashville is paying for their crime lab. I believe. I thought we were speaking of the Jackson one.
That's one question.
If you guys will look into that.
Yes,
Look and find out on that so we'll know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
definitely ask that.
So I guess in my mind, this is again, we didn't have our police department come and ask us to set up a crime lab. They didn't say that's what they needed to bring crime down now and to solve crimes. They did tell us that if we had all these cameras connected, we think we could interconnect and we could solve more crimes, particularly since we don't have enough officers on the streets. This could be our extra 150 or extra 400 men if we put this through right. And they didn't say, if only we had a crime lab, we'd be able to solve more crimes. For that reason, I'm not going to be backing this for the crime lab, but I think that we should be listening to our department and funding what they say will help us lower the crime rate. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to make wrap-up comments because I get to do that through this 1 year in this position. I think it's all creative. I think, Chairman, look, I've said this before, I don't really like talking about. My wife was best friends with Liza. They were in school together since they were in second grade. Like, it's an incredibly tragic situation to endure with a family member and all the other victims that are out there. It's a horrific situation to not know. There's a young lady in our office that pulled me aside and was the victim of sexual assault 22 years ago and was involved in the backlog issue, whose husband is actually a current firefighter for the Memphis Fire Department. Of course, it helps with clearance rates, but when you look at the holistic picture right now, I don't know that the question is asking how do we build one with our own city dollars and get it up and operating is feasible. Because yes, we got hosed as a municipality when the state made a determination to take it out of Memphis and put it in a much more Republican-friendly jurisdiction where there are heavy benefactors and donors that come out of Madison County. Like, I'll address that elephant in the room straight on. The question that I would ask you that would be much more feasible that I think we asked in the wake of Liza Fletcher's case was, while it may not seem prudent and it may create more of a problem, how do we fund you to expedite each and every case? Because each and every case deserves to be expedited, whether they're Liza Fletcher or somebody that we don't know that's not on national news, whose skin color isn't white and doesn't come from an East Memphis neighborhood. So if there's an opportunity for us to help fund that, especially over the next couple of years to try and catch up. I think that that's something this council would come together because we do want to help with the clearance rate while we're trying to figure out how to give you guys a larger complement so that our investigative unit can grow and they're not having to take cases on and look at and say, I can solve this case faster. I can't solve this one. I'll try and get back to it later because they are dealing with such a high volume of case rate. And I think, again, this goes back to our complement of officers. Everybody always thinks foot patrol, stop and frisk. Like one of our biggest issues is keeping investigators, like seasoned, like experienced investigators. That's very difficult in the cases that they see. So that's my question is how can we help you with your clearance rate outside of pursuing a higher complement of officers and something that we may not be able to do, which is construct, build, and operate anywhere in the next 2 to 4 years. How can we address this problem in this next coming fiscal year?
May I say something just before Chief Davis does?
Hop in.
To amplify what you just said, Councilman Carlisle, Nashville's clearance rate, what I'm being told from conversations with the state, is double that of TBI. So their lab is not performing to the level that the TBI lab is performing, unfortunately. And the TBI have a lot of plans to continue to whittle down the number of their turnaround rate. I just wanted to amplify what you said about the performance of the lab, and I'll turn it over to Chief Davis and get out the way.
So we're constantly looking at how do we not just, expedite our cases, but train our folks so they can be more successful. Also in sex crimes type cases, those cases get to a certain point that if there is no definitive evidence that has been processed, it sort of gets to a point where it's in a stalemate. While we're waiting to get that evidence to confirm that this suspect is associated with this victim, it doesn't mean that the investigators haven't done everything that they could. So I hear what you're saying. Money is not going to help us improve. What it will help us to improve is for these kits to be processed in a timely fashion and for us to work with our DA's office to move forward with the case, to prosecute the case.
So if there's a number out there, that's the number I personally would like you to bring back to this council. And even if it is, like, look, we're using TBI. I'm sure there's leeway, and again, I don't know this, so I'll ask this in question form. Can we use private contractors not located in the state of Tennessee to expedite cases? Again, and what does that number look like?
Mm-hmm.
When we're sitting on.
So yes to
doing that.
that.
Yeah.
So yes to that. Yes
Yeah.
to that.
So
Right.
that's,
We use
I think
private
for me,
labs.
that is the tangible thing that I think the body can get behind that helps and advocates for victims while we look at, and the administration with other agencies and other jurisdictions looks at a more regional approach that we have more control over, that's much more tangible in the near term. But Chairman Jones is right. I mean, I think we get the short end of the stick, and he's at least trying to explore an option. We get the short end of the stick when we don't have control of our future, when something that was inside of Shelby County is taken and put in Madison County, which doesn't even have close to the population, close to the case rate. And so it goes back to this, again, Nashville wants to know why we have all these issues, and they ask us to come to the card table and play with the fixed deck. So I think it's a very fair point. Any other questions related to the CIP budget and or operating budget for the police department? All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you. And our clearance rate is higher than the national average. I just want to put that
Just want to toss that out there. I'll drop that mic. Thank you, Chief. All right. Last today, but first in your hearts, Gary Rosenfeld and his team from Memphis Area Transit Authority, specifically to talk, I know holistically, but I think specifically more on the operating side. I think there were some questions from council members, and certainly there have been a lot of advocacy. Thank you, guys. A lot of advocacy groups that have been trying to champion some increased funding, and I think we all wanted to hear a little bit more as we head towards the final few days, as council members are trying to figure out where they want to land. But if anybody has CIP questions or federal dollar questions, obviously the floor is open. With that, I will turn it over to the man himself, Mr. Rosenfeld. The floor, and we'll give you a couple. Yeah, take your time. Jonathan, is he good to go? Okay. There you go. All right, hold on. All right. Mr. Roosevelt, thank you for coming. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and review the information that you requested with respect to what would we do with some additional funding. I'd like to take the opportunity to start with, all we need is this to forward on. So it'll go to page 7 because I pushed it 7 times. I know you all have a written copy in front of you. We'll just go ahead and go to page 2. Just reviewing that we have quite a book of capital projects on tap for the next couple of years, including a new bus operations facility, the Memphis Innovation Corridor BRT project, and the Crosstown Corridor BRT, as well as moving forward with an environmental initiative to convert the fleet, excuse me, to electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging stations. Something near and dear to everyone's heart is the restart of the Madison trolley line as well as the Riverfront trolley line. I just want to make everybody aware that about 80% of all of the marketing material for Memphis and Shelby County includes a picture of a trolley.
I can't tell you how many businesses enjoy.
And yeah, it's great. Then we have various different transit vision projects, as well as another 236 projects that are each under $1 million. So the investment coming from the federal level to Memphis for these projects is huge, and the federal government has indicated to us that they will fund just about anything we bring to them as long as we can deliver it. So that's good news, but there needs to be local participation, both from the federal and, to match the federal dollars, usually at an 80-20 match rate, 80% federal dollar, 20% local, but then also the operations of all of these various different projects as they go forward. At MATA over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, we have done a couple of things that have taken quite a bit of time and quite a bit of effort in terms of professional development as well as investment. We've revamped our safety and security department. This was a requirement of our federal funding. We had to adopt and put into place what's called the Public Transportation Safety Plan. This includes a staff of professionals that look at all risks associated with the operation of our systems, both rail and bus. And the reporting requirements to Congress are quite extensive through the transit asset program. We've also, through the information we receive from the public as well as this body, we've enhanced our communications and marketing departments, including messaging, social media, and public outreach. We have dedicated professionals to each of these areas now, and we didn't have that a few years back. The proposed service level for fiscal 24 is about 426,000 revenue hours, which translates to 500,000, just over 507,000 payroll hours for bus operators. There's an equal amount of payroll time necessary for maintenance employees and the administrative team, so it's about a 50-50 mix. So we're looking at 1 million hours of payroll in general to provide the 426,000 hours of service to the community. The additional investment is needed to help us solve some of our ongoing problems. We're short operators and technicians. As you can see here, 47 bus operators, 25 maintenance technicians, another 9 trolley operators, and 18 on-demand operators. These are the 18 on-demand operators, for example, is in a growing area. The on-demand service has got excellent statistics from the time that we've started these projects, and the plan is in the future to add more of these services in our community. The 47 bus operators affect everything from on-time performance to system reliability. Unfortunately, when I got started in this business many decades ago, we were able to operate with 10% spare factor of buses and bus operators. Today, that number is more like 30 or 35% based on all of the different things that go into retaining employees.
What's the spare factor?
What
is the definition of spare factor?
Spare factor would be an extra driver or bus available to be put into the system on a moment's notice. So if a bus operator calls in sick, for example, we would put a cover driver into that situation. If a bus breaks down or is not available for some reason due to maintenance, then we would have an extra bus to put into the system as well.
Okay, thank you.
We have some retention issues with our employees. We review all of the exit interviews for all of our employees, and we find that new folks are not interested in working nights, evenings, weekends, and holidays. It's probably the same in a lot of other businesses. Councilman, I was up at 2 o'clock this morning with you, so I share your concern. Yeah, appreciate it. Yep. But what we need to do is address some of these retention issues so that we can solve some of these problems. It takes about 3 months to train a bus operator, get them ready to go out into the field on their own. And if they come to work for us, get trained for over 3 months, and then stay for 3 months, we end up with the revolving door. So there are many problems with respect to retention issues that we need to be able to negotiate into a new labor agreement that would be able to allow us to address those issues. We also have some work rule inefficiencies. Sometimes we're restricted by the items that are in our labor agreement that make it take way too long for us to affect change. We can come up with all the great ideas in the world, but if it takes us 6 months to implement them, that's a half a budget year, and we don't reap the benefits of any type of efficiencies gained. So it's important that we work hard through our negotiations to try to solve some of these inefficiencies. You've all heard about the Transit Vision. It's part of Memphis 3.0, the comprehensive land use plan. The Transit Vision had this recommended network that includes increasing the frequency on most routes, and the overall goal is to get people from point A to point B in 1 hour or less. And if implemented at its full, it would increase the number of jobs available to low and moderate income homes by about 49%. This is the recommended network, as you see on the screen right now. It includes more frequency, more weekend and evening service, and expanded bus routes, and the on-demand or alternative forms of microtransit. When this was implemented or developed, a $30 million price tag was put on it annually in fiscal year 20. In fiscal year 22, this body, along with Shelby County, came up with the creative way of providing some level of dedicated funding, and that came in at about $4 million in the first year. It should be noted that that $4 million actually performed at $3 million, and as we go forward, we will have, it will take until 2032 before the full $30 million is attained. The only problem with that is by 2032, that $30 million number is actually, with inflation, about $46 million. So even though we're trying real hard to come up with these creative ideas and creative plans to provide funding, it is still falling short. The Transit Vision is great because it allows us to scale to match the available funding. It allows us to adapt it to the current ridership. And the tried and true things that we have tried, the on-demand zones, plus the bus rapid transit lines that are in process right now, and our electric bus program, are all things that help us to meet several different goals and objectives. Phase 1 of the plan for Transit Vision is listed here, Route 1, Route 32, 36, 42, 50, and 57. Some of these things are minor alignment changes, others add additional service on the weekends, and most of all, they adjust service frequency, which is crucial in order to reduce the amount of travel time it takes to get from point A to point B. We also look at zonal boundary adjustments and new ready zones and supporting vehicles. This is what the service looks like that's being adjusted. As you can see, it goes throughout the community. It covers all areas of Memphis, and we're excited to have this out there. But the key is we have to get to the full complement of drivers before we can really look at implementing these services. So it's crucial that we get to that point. Then we can certainly begin to layer these changes and additions into the system and be able to deliver a better product to the community. That's what I have there. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenfeld. I've got a few philosophical questions and that you may, I mean, you know your subject matter pretty well, so you may have specific. I'm going to end with a labor agreement because it's something that you and I have discussed. It's still a little over my head because it's not something that I'm familiar with. I'm not, but I know it's looming out there and it's an unknown and a driving force. But when you look at the benefits of the on-demand or micro travel, have we evaluated alternatives to the fixed route bus system? Meaning, a large amount of our ridership seemingly is daily riders trying to go from point A to point B, maybe point C, go to work or go to the grocery store, so it's almost like you want to give them an AirPod to track their movement, to collect that data to say, hey, the old fixed route bus system may not be the future for Memphis. Why don't we, when we've got all these abandoned lots or places, why not create micro bus lots where you could have safe shelter and somewhere they could at least congregate, and then you have a Groove on Demand pick them up and then take them to the fixed route line they're going to. I guess I'm just saying that the fixed route system, I understand on major arteries moving east and west and north and south, the issue seems to be getting people from either their home or from their home to a stop and then a transfer. And so in your opinion, and the conferences you've been at and looking at other cities, is there an alternative strategy to just upping the fixed route system that we could utilize in the future? And then I know this will piggyback because I'll get this to labor agreement. We also have to deal with the school busing system, which seems to be our major competitor, which is driving our rate back and forth. But if you can kind of just expound a little bit on the fixed route system, the future of transportation, and alternatives to just the fixed route system as we move into the future.
Thank you, Councilman. You're almost spot on in terms of what the future holds for us in terms of as we look to either replace underperforming fixed routes or expand on-demand zones. The on-demand zones grew out of underperforming fixed routes. And that seems to be the trend across the country with transit systems, our size, bigger transit systems, and smaller transit systems. The goal is to be able to address the first and last mile of transportation, but it's also to recognize that a large percentage of the trips that people take are within their neighborhoods. So that's the beauty of the success of our on-demand programs, is we're able to bring those folks to areas closer to where they board and to take them to their destinations within the communities that they're in. We're excited to see, for example, that the Groove on Demand, a large percentage of the passengers, where we just celebrated the 100,000th ride on the Groove last week, but we're excited to see that a large number of those passengers are coming out of the new Chicago area, and it's addressing other social issues, for instance, the grocery desert, that the destination of a grocery store at Watkins and Cleveland is a major destination on that service. We are seeing that in the Southwest area, where major destinations are dialysis centers, charter schools, and other opportunities for people within the community. The goal in the future will be to have the fixed route system provide inter-community transportation and be able to provide the ongoing micro transit, if you will, or on-demand service in those neighborhoods, and that just stays there. Yeah, but yes.
So
that's
how
it.
far out? And I guess I think this kind of goes to the funding. I mean, and again, it sounds like a lot of this is just, actually, that was my second question before we move on from on-demand as far as the future. Dumb question. On-demand is typically a smaller, it can be a van, it can be a smaller axle vehicle. Are those drivers required to carry CDLs because of the nature of their business, or can they? No.
No, they're not.
So again, another huge reason for me why I'm a big fan, based on the training shortage, et cetera. Because again, I don't want to call it park and ride, because that would be missing the point, because most people don't have the ability to park their car in a carpooling area. And so the question is how do we identify those major inner neighborhood areas where we can say, look, we don't want you to walk 1.5 miles, but the city owns this piece of property, or we have these lots that we can improve and create a safe congregating area for a smaller on-demand or smaller micro route to get you to the fixed route area. Because to your point, people having to walk 1.5 miles, 2 miles to the first stop, and then, that seems to be one of the issues. It'd be something I'd love to see us evaluate. And you may already be on that path.
Yeah, Councilman, if I could, the big thing is that with the on-demand services, we're addressing the first last mile.
Yeah.
And it is a safety issue in many communities. A lot of people cannot walk 1.5 miles. They can't for a number of reasons, whether it be they're going over a boundary that they shouldn't be going over, or they've got a health issue, or whatever. The on-demand issue, the on-demand service addresses that. So we pick them up at their home and we take them to a transfer point where they can get on a fixed route if that's their destination, or if their destination warrants it. But most of the folks that are using the service, and we're racking up some wonderful passengers per hour rates, especially again in the Southwest area, to be able to get people to their dialysis appointment quicker than the old paratransit system that requires a reservation in advance. So now they're able to call in at when they want to go, rather than scheduling it the day before. So it just offers all sorts of additional flexibility for people. So our goal is to increase the on-demand services somewhere between 2 and 4 programs in the coming year. That will be limited on the basis of hiring capability, but also the availability of vehicles. We are seeing some lightening up of some of the supply chain issues on vehicles. We should be receiving 10 of the small vehicles, I want to say by Christmas of this year, which will be great, and we'll get them put into service as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And now if you'll touch on kind of, not the elephant in the room, because you've touched on it, but a little bit about this looming labor agreement, what's happened nationally, what's going to happen locally, and then the thing that frustrates me the most, which is we compete with other agencies doing similar things that just drives up the labor market.
Certainly. We are currently in labor negotiations with the Amalgamated Transit Union. The ATU represents our bus operators and maintenance employees. To date, we've had several sessions. We've got, I think, 6 sessions scheduled over the next few weeks to hopefully wrap up the negotiations as quickly as possible. I'm very much, I'm very happy with where we're at in the negotiations right now with respect to the union's proposals and our proposals, and I think that the union has a fair drive to settle with a good agreement, as do we. What we are seeing on a national level from the ATU is wages settling somewhere between 16 and 20% over the life of an agreement. But the bigger thing and the bigger cost items are the work rule changes and other things necessary in order to make the jobs competitive for the future. Another big area is the maintenance arena. We're going to, with the technology advances with electric vehicles, unfortunately, we're going to end up with 2 groups of maintenance employees in the future for the time being, and that's the guys that get dirty, and then the guys that wear lab coats and use computers. We're seeing it. I was on the phone earlier today with workforce development folks because we're trying to come up with the programs to be able to create our own in-house, and that's difficult. but the technology is also driving up the cost of labor. Just as you mentioned earlier with the technicians that go to work at a crime lab, and we see the same type of thing mostly in our administrative side. We'll have planners that come to work for us, spend 2 years. It really takes 2 years before they're actually able to do things on their own, and then a year later they're working for one of the big engineering firms at twice the salary and selling the services back to us at a much higher rate. The big thing that we have to accomplish with the bus drivers and the maintenance team is to establish a competitive wage scale and wage rate for the future. We were at the head of the pack when the pandemic started, with incentive pay and signing bonuses and all of those things, but everybody seemed to catch up and exceed what we're doing. We're seeing sign-on bonuses at transit properties up to $15,000, and we just can't compete with that, unfortunately. And we just need to make sure that in addition to a competitive work rate or wage rate, that we have work rules that are conducive to allow young people with young families to have a good quality of life, and reward those people, those senior employees that might be taking on additional responsibilities, the opportunity to be rewarded for their effort. And if we're able to and successful at doing that, which I believe we will be, we will have the first-rate transit system that Memphis is so eager to have and and deserves. That's where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Roosevelt. Colleagues, any other questions? Chairman Jones.
Good afternoon, Mr. Roosevelt. Can you talk about, I'm looking at the different route changes that are on the slide here. Can you talk about what would be the change in service if you don't receive the recommended allocation? You talk about from the standpoint, so I'm looking at the one union, for instance. What is, we were on you can go back, either one of them. But do we have an average wait time or what the frequency is on each one of your routes? So what would be helpful for this council is to say, look, if we don't receive the level of funding, where on the one union right now, every bus runs every 90 minutes. But without that, we have to take it to that wait time would be an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours and 15 minutes. Do we have that for each one of these routes?
We certainly can have that as we would engineer it based on whatever level of funding we get. It would probably be safe to say that service reductions, if there's no additional funding, would probably be in the 10 to 15% system-wide range.
Okay, but you're going to have to translate that for us. And from the standpoint, I think if people say, the whole point is to get people to work on time, reliably. To put it in its simplest forms, is to say to us, here's what, if we're looking at somebody who has to get to work and they have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning in order to get to the other side of town, because it takes them 2 hours to get there. Well, without this, it's going to be 2.5 hours.
Yes. Councilman, I don't have that here today, but I will get it to you within the next 48 hours.
Okay. So what would be, for each one of these, if you say, okay, well, and how many different lines do we have? Is that 30?
39, I believe.
Okay, right. So here we are for each one of these 39.
That's what I'll get to you in the next 48 hours. The thing that I would like everybody to understand on this right here, this is what we would be adding if we had a full complement of people. Okay?
Ms. Roosevelt, you're not at the point where you can add right now.
Right. I'm not.
Right. So we have to, because where we have to get to is, at some point,
that person for that person to get to work, it's going to take them 3 hours as opposed to 2.
Right.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
There's one more question from me. Yes, sir. Councilman Ford.
I've been getting a lot of different calls. Some are from employees. Majority, I can say, is from employees. You know, I'm kind of old, but I was brought up real young working. A lot of people don't want to work nowadays, okay? You have some employees that's working, and they have an issue with the raises and everything else that they're supposed to get. A lot of your workers may not come to work because of those issues. What are you planning on doing with that? Because one person that's supposed to be over it, well, for the last 3 weeks, they say he was sick, and then he had death, he had this, and he had that. It should not just be one person that's in place that's kind of dealing with the employees. You know, that kind of offsets and say, why would I want to work for Mountain? These are very good employees. That's why the bus might be late, okay? Then you can answer that question. But not only that, the majority of my people that live in my district that rides the bus, they're going, a few may go to dialysis, but they usually get somebody to take them to dialysis, okay? And then your red bus might take them, okay? But the regular bus, people are going to work. My people come from South Memphis, and they have to go to East Memphis, okay? And a lot of times they are very late, okay? And these jobs that they're going to, and they're really going to take care of these people, these East Memphis people that, I'm just going to be honest, they're taking care of them and raising them, okay? Hello, it ain't changed. It ain't changed in 100 years. I mean, you know, and the reason why I'm saying that I see that every day, because some of them die. See, I'm in the deaf business, okay? And you know what? And they cry more than the family. Because, hey, that's the ones that they knew. Those are people that are very important to me. Getting them to work and getting them to work on time, okay? Those are the ones that ride the bus, you know, and all. Huh?
Spend every day.
You spend every day and all day, but at least when I kind of get off, I need to try to get back home, okay? And then it's a different day and age, you know, when it gets nighttime, and then when time changes, it's gonna really be kind of bad, okay? Right now, we got more daylight. But those are the things I need you to work on and try to get your employees that you have. Take care of them, you know. The ones that you have that's going to come every day and that don't miss no days. Not one that come to work today and tomorrow I got a problem. Okay? Yeah. And then, like I said, if you take care of them, they're going to take care of the rest of it themselves too. That's all I'm asking. Okay?
Thank you, Councilman Ford. Colleagues, any other questions for Mr. Rosenfeld? All right.
Sounds like we almost need to get more vans and less buses.
I mean, I think that's what I'm hearing. I mean, he's got a labor issue today, but the future is on demand tomorrow, and tomorrow's not right on the horizon, so to speak. And so,
Well, we've added, in the last year, we've added 0 fixed route buses and probably close to 20 on-demand buses. So, you know, it's there, and it's clearly the mobility of the future, and we will continue down that path. But we still need to be able to provide service for people to get between communities, because there are job opportunities in places. And Councilman, I met with a driver last week. I had a town hall with my drivers, and I met with a driver that brought that pay issue to my attention, and we'll get that fixed here in the next few days. But the future is in the use of technology and deploying technology in order to deploy mobility. And our app that is available online is a wonderful feature. We're in the midst of the employee testing of the next generation fare system to try to make paying for bus service all that much easier for folks. And we're bringing all the technology we can, but now we need to address the human factor and the human issue with respect to wages and working conditions and work rules. And if we're able to do that, like I said, we will provide the service that the community is demanding, and quite honestly, they deserve it.
Yeah. I do want to say for the record that I was incredibly disappointed and disheartened to have the county mayor produce a budget that took away what little funding they were already giving. This has been, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but the thing that's frustrating, including those that represent out in the suburban municipalities and the unincorporated, the largest near-term beneficiary for Blue Oval and any sort of accelerated development is going to be out in the unincorporated county and out in the suburban municipalities. And all of the limited service hotels and restaurant and retail that drags itself along is going to be in those areas. But when certain areas are intentionally zoning out workforce housing, the workforce has to come from somewhere. And that's going to be the city of Memphis. And so to say that you shouldn't be funding the transit system as the county government when the workforce is going to drive your economy forward is mind-numbingly painful to listen to, especially when you championed yourself in your last election as a community-driven leader. And we know equitable transit is a big piece of that. So, I'm probably going to take some grief for saying it, but it really was frustrating because eventually for me, my goal is to hope that MATA can become its own regional transit authority. I think that when you start to look at the square mile, when you start to look at what's happening in Blue Oval, the county and the city, and then the state, well, and not only that, but our compact. The fact that we have employees that need to get from Memphis, Tennessee, or South Memphis down even across state lines to work at a manufacturing facility in Mississippi, that requires that interstate cooperation, which is why I was really sad that the compact fell apart. But it's all of the above, and so it was disheartening to see that. I try and stay away from county things because I don't want to get fussed at.
We were able to through the process. We did get $1 million put back in.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
That was at 10 o'clock at night.
That's all right. We run efficiently here. Look, 5.5 hours of honorary resolutions. You eventually got to get to some business. All right. Any other questions while we have his team here? Thank you. I know you guys had a board meeting. It's just to Councilman Ford's point, we're trying to get to the end of the wrap up, however long it takes. But and I know this is a critical piece. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
All right, colleagues. Assuming Chairman Jones, when he reviews the budget with staff, I think we have a pretty open day on Tuesday to focus on the budget in committee. I have something that I'm working on. It's not finished. I'm hope that it's done in order to be circulated Thursday with the normal deal. I guess what I'm really asking is does anybody feel the need to come back prior to next Tuesday's committee? Chairman, do you have a strong feeling about needing to come back prior to, or do you think that Tuesday can handle business? Fair enough. Well, you didn't have to say that. I'm glad your mic off good. I think we're fine. I mean, I think you've presented your proposal. I think there's a few other members that have piggyback proposals or amendments. I think there's enough there. If anybody, and this is just general advice, take it or leave it. If you have something that you are working on that adds money or cuts or whatnot, you're obviously entitled to do whatever you want as a council member, but we have to pass a balanced budget, period, full stop. You don't have to consult me or any other member, but I would recommend at some point you reach out to the administration to ensure that if it's a cut in particular, that we understand the ramifications of that, because I've also almost stepped on a couple landmines myself. And so they're there to at least try and cooperate and ask questions. You don't have to agree with them. But please, when we reconvene on Tuesday at committee, we've got to pass a balanced budget. or else we'll have to recess through the week, which nobody wants to do. So please try and get all your homework done. If you plan on amending, adding to, replacing, there's only two proposals on the table right now, the administration's budget and Chairman Jones's increase. So please come prepared if you're going to make any changes or amendments. That's my deepest request. With that,
Well, Mr. Chairman, one
yes,
thing
sir,
too.
Chairman Jones.
As the staff is putting together their agenda, I would still say, I would make that request to be this Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, look, I would also say that we follow the ordinary course of business. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To remind everybody, our ordinary, no, we're not meeting Thursday, but what Chairman Jones is saying, and for the record, is that the council's ordinary course of business recommends and really requires technically by our rules that all resolutions and ordinances be submitted to staff so that they can be made available to the public. I think it's by 11 a.m. Thursday, 10 a.m. Thursday. And that allows the public, and one, it allows the staff to understand how to set the day. Two, it allows the administration to set their day. And three, and most importantly, it allows the public to have an opportunity to review the documents that are coming. So that's a very good point, Chairman Jones. And honestly, if we're going to have a smooth Tuesday, that's probably the best way to go about it, because surprises can create people wanting to delay and move. And I really would like to get out, and I know that the administration would, on Tuesday, because we I won't say must, but we pretty much must pass that budget by 12:59 or 11:59 June 30th. Or else we have to go into a continuation budget, and that's a whole hot mess. We don't want to do that. So, Chief Ford, do you have any remarks? Yeah.
Thank you, council members. Again, if there's anything that we can provide for you, information that you need related to any recommendations that have been made or that you would need, we're happy to do so. I appreciate each and every one of you. I know how hard you have worked toward helping us get there. Chairman Carlisle, you are absolutely correct. If we do not pass a balanced budget by the end of the day on June 30th, we're required by law to fall back to the prior year's adopted budget. Yes. So you're looking at me. So yes, so I'll repeat that. If you do not have a balanced budget passed and approved by the legislative body by June 30th, by law, you must then readopt your prior year budget immediately. Yeah, so it's not a place that we want you to be, and it's probably not a place that you want to be. So if there's anything that we can do to help you, we stand here to help you.
All right, colleagues, thank you. We'll see you Tuesday at probably 6. No, I'm just kidding. Tuesday the 27th, our next